my daughter best morning in a really long time. She is going on 12, and so we decided to knock the volleyball around for a little bit this morning. However, I was able to sneak in most of this book, Loving What Is. It's an older book by Byron Katie. I've been hearing so much about this woman that I decided, okay, I've got to bite the bullet and see what her work is all about. And it's enlightening. It's a lot of much of a workbook as it is a knowledge book and motivation book. So, Loving What Is by Byron Katie is what we're going to review today. Happy Sunday. And if you're joining me on Amazon Live, I'll highlight the book for you in the carousel. I'll put in the links on Facebook Live and as well on YouTube. So thrilled that you're here. Thank you for being here every day at noon. I come to you with a book summary. In this case, I've read most, not all of this book. A lot of it is a repeat of dialogues that she has had to kind of learn how to do her questions and what she calls the work. So, Byron Katie, 4 questions to change your life. So, it is a revered book with excerpts or little quotes by Eckhart Tolle, lots of really powerful recommendations, which I think is really cool. All right, so let's dive in. The beginning walks you through the introduction, gives a great positioning, and talks about again exactly where she is on her journey. Apparently, she had quite a breakdown, 2 marriages, 3 kids, and then spent a little time in a halfway house where she had this epiphany of change, literally change. And she came out of there and she wasn't the same person, which is pretty impressive. So it starts with a quote. The more clearly you understand yourself and your emotions, the more you become a lover of what is. The whole premise, loving what is, accepting what is. And then she has 4 questions that you do the work. She calls it the work with. So what I loved about this book is that it was very hands-on. What I didn't love about this book is that it was very hands-on. So there's a lot of writing, there's a lot of prompts, there's a lot of, what's difficult, what's bothering you, and then really getting in there. And so thank you, I want to say, for joining me. I see you on Amazon Live. I see you on Facebook. I'm a little disheveled today. I spent a little bit of the morning playing volleyball with my daughter, and we actually went to the court and hit the ball around. It was really fun. So, but hey, it's Sunday and I'm still showing up and I'm still here. This is my accountability practice. So thank you for being here. All right. So as the book begins, the introduction really positions the book, I think, really, really nicely. It talks about the trap, what's happening in there. And so it says, the first time I watched the work, I realized I was witnessing something truly remarkable. What I saw was a succession of people, young, old, educated, uneducated, learning to question their own thoughts. So that becomes the premise, questioning our own thoughts, the thoughts that were most painful. So and then with the incisive help of Byron Katie, everyone calls her Katie, these people were finding their way not only toward the resolution of their immediate problems, but here's the thing, toward a state in which the deepest questions are resolved. How about that? The deepest questions are resolved. He refers to the Tao Te Ching and the Bhagavad Gita, and a sort of loosely likening some of this work there. Um, and then the intro talks about how simple and precise and effective the work is. So what is the work? The work is 4 questions that you could ask about any situation, anything that's bothering you, that gives you clarity of thought and essentially brings it back almost full circle, if you will. Suffering is optional, Katie says. Whenever we experience stressful feeling, anything from mild discomfort to intense sorrow or rage or despair, we can be certain there is a specific thought that is causing our reaction. So really interesting there that she kind of almost does a diagram, if you will, of thoughts causing actions and feelings being prompts for those thoughts. The way to end our stress and to investigate thinking that lies behind it, and anyone can do this by themselves with a piece of paper and a pen. So, a lot of writing going on to write out. And it's interesting the writing that she encourages. It's to write really raw, whatever it is you think, no judgment. Don't try to, placate or paraphrase or pretty it up at all. She wants you to just say all of the stuff that comes out. And then she says, this is where our thinking isn't true for us. You'll see where your thinking isn't true. So it's about judgments that we believe and take for granted, because and they're distortions of the things that really are. How our thoughts become distorted. Really interesting here. The work has striking similarities with the Zen cone and Socratic dialogue, but it doesn't stem from any tradition, Eastern or Western. I like this. It's American, homegrown, and mainstream, having originated in the mind of an ordinary woman who had no intention of originating anything. I like that. So, uh, there it goes on to refer to some Buddhist sayings, and it talks about one one morning, Katie woke up without any concept of who she was. There was no me, she says. All my rage, my thoughts that had been controlling me, my whole world was gone. And at the same time, laughter welled up in the depths and just poured out. Everything was unrecognizable. It was if someone else or something else had woken up. It opened its eyes. It was looking through Katie's eyes, and it was so delighted. It was intoxicated with joy. That sounds pretty cool. So goes on to talk about how she was completely peaceful as she came to develop this work, and and then she starts introducing more about her work. Katie often says the only way to understand the work is to experience it, and sometimes the brain becomes the interpreter. She calls the brain the interpreter. Perhaps the most important revelation is precisely this, that the left cerebral hemisphere of humans is prone to fabricating verbal narratives that do not necessarily accord with the truth. So we make up our own stories, as she's describing here. And then the left brain weaves together its story in order to convince itself that it is in full control. So interesting, there's a right brain, left brain kind of concept going on. And then there's a less known capacity in the mind to find out, to find a way out of its made up trap, that we don't have interest in finding out if our stories are made up or not. So basically, her premise is if we can come back to what's real, what's happening in the moment, then we can move forward. So I see you on Amazon Live. Thank you so much for being here. Every day at noon, I'm sharing a book review. And today we're talking about loving what is. If you're joining me on Facebook and on YouTube Live as well, welcome. I'm certainly glad that you're here, and I'll put the book in the link for you there. So, after doing the work, many people report an immediate sense of release and freedom. So, the work, what is it? 4 questions that you ask yourself. And I think without it being in context of the book and reading through the prompts and the examples that she gives, I don't think it would be the proper thing for me to do to just give you the 4 questions and go. I think it, Alice in the background. I think it requires a little bit more uh, um, respect than that to spend a little time working through. But essentially, 4 questions that prompt you to question your thinking and lead you into clarity of thought. I think that's probably the simplest way to kind of put it. So it's about getting to the truth, about getting to what is true, and then considering what it would be like uh, if if you were without that thought. So um, she says, we attach to uninvestigated concepts that we believe to be true in the moment. And I think that's true, right? We've always all had those moments where we like believe something to be true, or we see something through our own paradigm or our own angle and realize that, oh, there's a lot of other things that could be happening or ways to see that story. She says, uh, there's a dialogue that is chronicled in the book. You trade your integrity for harmony in the home. It doesn't work. Spare yourself from seeking love, approval, or appreciation from anyone and watch what happens in reality just for fun. Read your statement again. So this is going through with a woman who was having trouble at home and kind of uh, talking her through her questioning her own thinking in that situation. Your work is merely four questions. It's not even a thing. It has no motive, no strings. It's nothing without your answer. Your four questions will join any program you've got and enhance it. Any religion you have, they'll enhance it. If you have no religion, they will bring you joy. And they'll burn up anything that isn't true for you. They'll burn through the reality that has always been waiting. Cool. About getting to what is real, getting to what is true. The purpose of this book, I love this. The purpose of this book is your happiness. How's that for a generous offer? The purpose of this book is your happiness. The work has worked for thousands of people, and loving what is will show you exactly how to use that in your own life. Everyone learns the work, I love this, their own way. Some learn the process primarily by watching how the dialogue unfolds. I encourage you to read them actively. They're in the book here. And here's what I love. She says, I trust that you'll do whatever works best for you. Take it or leave it. She says, this is my gift to share of what I have learned, and entirely up to you if you choose to use it. She says, we are entering the dimension where we have control inside. So all of the external control that we try to make happen with our kids and with our spouse and with our lovers, with everyone, she comes back to it's about what's inside. A few basic principles. What I love about this work is it allows you to go inside and find your own happiness. It exists within you, unchanging, immovable, ever present, ever waiting, no teacher necessary. You are the teacher you've been waiting for. You are the one who can end your own suffering. This to me brings me back to The Greatest Secret, the book that I read on January 1st of this year. Lots of coincidences in the language and the ideas that are shared there. I'm just wondering if there is any sort of tie, because in The Greatest Secret there is not a reveal on who the secret teacher is in that book, but a lot of similarities, if you will, to me. Themes anyway. Noticing your thoughts noticing when your thoughts argue with reality. The only time we suffer is when we believe that a thought argues with what is. I had to really digest that for a moment. A thought argues with what is. So, questioning, how is my thinking not clear, right? And then again, prompts you page after page about how to move through that. These thoughts are ways of wanting reality to be different than it is. Anytime we want reality to be different than what it is, that's when there's pain, she says, and suffering. All the stress that we feel is caused by arguing with what is. The work reveals that what you think shouldn't have happened should have happened. Whatever it is that you're thinking that shouldn't have happened, if you, yeah, it should have because it did, is what she's saying. And it should have happened because it did. And no thinking in the world can change that. This doesn't mean that you condone it or approve of it. It just means that you can see things without resistance and without the confusion of your inner struggle getting caught up in our own heads, right? No one wants their children to get sick. No one wants to be in a car accident, but these things happen. How can it be helpful to mentally argue with them? We know better than to do that, but we still do it anyway, right? I'm a lover of what is because I'm a spiritual person, but because it hurts when I argue with reality. We can know that reality is good just as it is, because when we argue with it, we experience tension and frustration. It's about accepting. We don't feel natural or balanced. When we stop opposing reality, I love this. She says, when we stop opposing reality, action becomes simple, fluid, kind, and fearless. I love that. Simple, fluid, kind, and fearless. Oh, wouldn't that be a great place to live? Staying in your own business. I love this. She says there's three kinds of business: yours, mine, and God's. She says stay in your own. If you're trying to tell somebody else what to do, then that's their business. If you are concerned about, a flooding happening in the world, that's God's business. She's like, stay right here in your own little circle of concern for yourself. Much of our stress comes from mentally living out of our own business. So good. To think that I know what's best for anyone else is to be out of my business. I've Even in the name of love, it's pure arrogance, and the result is tension, anxiety, and fear. Do I know what's right for me? That is my only business. So clear, so direct, so on point. I know now why Byron Katie is beloved by so many people, and her work is recommended. Was my first foray, literally this morning as I sat down to read this book, my first foray into Byron Katie's work, and I just love it because it is about doing the work, about kind of living it out, writing it out, and then going through the 4 questions. A thought is harmless unless we believe it, she says. It's not our thoughts, but the attachment to our thoughts that causes suffering. Attaching to a thought means believing that it's true without inquiring. Not all of our thoughts are true. A belief is a thought that we've been attached to, often for years. Oh, I love that. Because things change, right? Or maybe it was a faulty premise to begin with. Most people think that they are what their thoughts tell them they are. One day I noticed that I wasn't breathing, I was being breathed. And this is interesting, a little deep. Then I noticed to my amazement that I wasn't thinking, that I was actually being thought. So she goes a little deeper there. I have to say, it lost me a little bit there, but again, I'm new to the material. She says, I don't let go of my thoughts. I meet them with understanding. Then they let go of me. Really interesting. Thoughts are like breeze or leaves on the trees or the raindrops falling. Here's my favorite quote from the book. Raindrops aren't personal, neither are thoughts. Would you argue with a raindrop? Would you argue with a raindrop? What an interesting question that is. It just is. It's just a raindrop. So I love how she encourages us to like take that lens and just look at that lens, look through that lens into the world. Would you argue with a raindrop? I think that just may become a new mantra of mine. Would you argue with a raindrop? It just is what it is. It brings whole new meaning to that phrase that I've heard so many times before. So, becoming aware of our stories. I often use the word stories to talk about our thoughts. She says stories appear in our minds hundreds of times a day. Stories are untested, uninvestigated theories that tell us what all these things mean, and we don't even realize that they're just stories. They're just what we're making up. I just think that's fascinating. Small stories breed bigger ones. Bigger stories breed major theories about life and how terrible it was and how the world was dangerous. And I ended up too frightened to leave my own bedroom. This is her story. And then she says she calls that all the dream. That's all the dream. How much of your world is made up of unexamined stories you'll never know until you inquire? So, There you have it. I think there's a lot of dialogue. It goes into the four questions, drawing you into the four questions, giving you dialogue examples of how it works out. Because there's four questions, but then there's follow up questions based on those four questions, based on your situation, whatever it is that you particular incident that you are doing the work on. So really fascinating. In all honesty, I have not finished the book. This is going to be something I'm going to be working on, probably not only today, probably for quite a while, but really, really fascinating. So regardless of whether I finished it or not, it's my accountability practice to be here every day at noon and share with you a book review of motivation and a practice that I have put into place for the new year. This is my New Year's resolution, and hey, we're going all the way through February. Gotta love it. So, Loving What Is by Byron Katie. If you have ever thought of questioning your own thoughts or just heard about Byron Katie like I had and questioned what she was all about, this is a great book. Really easy read. Um, I haven't done the work yet, but I have to say, I have a feeling it's going to be a little work to do the work. So there you have it. It is highlighted for you in the carousel. The other items that are in the carousel on Amazon Live, by the way, are various other books that I have reviewed since January 1st. I can only put, I think, 40 or so in there at a time. The full list is available on my page on Amazon, and I'll put the links in there for you as well if you're joining me on Facebook Live and on YouTube Live. So thank you for being here. We're going to keep it short and sweet today, and because I think Victoria and I might go play some more volleyball. We were out and about this morning, which is why I'm a little disheveled, but that's okay because that's life, right? Day by day. Happy Sunday to you, and go play. My favorite motto, go play. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. See you then.